Hello there. It's a beautiful sunny day on the 5th of March and spring is just about to come to the garden. Some things are beginning to wake up, and this is usually first week of March is when I do my spring pruning on all my shrubs. Most of the perennial stuff has already fell down to the ground. If not, I just snip off the stems and then just let them rot down into the ground. It does look a little bit untidy, so if you like it all like neat and presentable, then you can just take them away and put them in the composter, but I don't do that, I just leave them on the floor. Okay, so I'm just going to go around the garden and talk about the sort of shrubs that I have and when and how to prune them. So as I said, this is the first week of March and it's a really good time to do this. Videoing might be a little bit broken up today because I'm looking after the two toddlers whilst trying to do this, so not easy. So if you bear with me, and we'll get round. Okay, so here we have my trailing fuchsias. Some people like to protect these all year because they're not completely hardy, but I'm in zone 8 near the coast, so we don't get heavy frosts, so I just leave mine out all year. And as you can see, they're already beginning to start budding. Now I'd like them to get a little bit bushier this year because they were just teeny tiny plugs last year. So to do that, I'm just gonna come back. So we've got this long stem here, and I'm just gonna take it to a bud. There's no like right or wrong on how much to take off. You could go right the way back to the first. But I'm just gonna go around the entire shrub like this. Some of these stems may die off, but that's okay. Fuchsias are very prolific growers, and we don't have to worry about that too much. So I'm just going to take them all off. So I'd say top third off all the way around the shrub, and then move on to the next one. And that's literally all there is to it. I don't want to go too far back. Hoping to get a beautiful show from these this year. Once again, sorry for the cat-handed videoing. Once I'm back on the ground, I will put it back on the holder. Okay, so this one doesn't appear to have as many live branches on it, but it does have some. So I'm just going to treat them all as if they were live for now. Once again, taking back probably about a third. I'm going to go too short. There we go. Number 3. Right, I'm going to stop here because I've got another 8 to go. You don't need to say the same thing over and over again, and we'll come back when I get to the next part. Okay guys, so I'm now sitting next to my big fuchsia bush. Once again, very reliable hardy plant, and if I just come up closer for you, you can see it's beginning to back bud absolutely everywhere. Now, I've got quite a small garden really, and fuchsias can get, sorry about that, pretty big. So this is going to get cut back to probably about maximum of about 2 foot, which is it does look shocking when you're doing it, but believe me, it will just throw out stems all over the place and become really bushy in no time. And because they don't flower until later in the season, it gives plenty of time for those buds to grow on the new stems. Okay. That's an example, sorry about the sun, an example of the thickness of the stem I've just cut off. Okay, and I'm not even worried that's going to come back like crazy. I'll do another video in a couple of weeks to show the results of the pruning. So after all that pruning, this here is what I've taken it back to. Not very big at all. And it's just gonna start shooting back from all these old stems down at the base. Okay, so what else is happening in the garden at the minute? We have got lupin coming up. These are an early flowering perennial. And I've got aquilegia, also early flowering. More lupins, crocuses. Don't quite have as many as I did last year. Sorry, that's the aquilegia here. And we've got crocuses beginning to pop up all over the place. So that's going to look beautiful soon. Okay, now here I've got a really big rosebush. If I put that there. Now all over this we've got new growth coming, but it does need to be pruned back, otherwise you just end up with a huge tree. Now, like most shrubs, new growth will come out of a leaf node, and I'm just going to cut everything back to the same height. It's almost criminal, it feels criminal to take some of these healthy shoots off. However, what we want is to keep the main structure at the bottom and encourage more branches. Once you get more branches, you get more blooms. So after this, it's going to look like a bit of a skeleton. The reason this is the perfect time to do it is because everything's only just beginning to wake up, so it's not going to be wasting energy and then cutting it off. Luckily this rose doesn't have a lot of thorns, so I can just hack away without worrying too much about getting caught. I think this rose was a £1 special from B&M Bargains a few years ago. And by doing this every year, that one stem has turned into many. And this year it should be nice and bushy. Got another rose here. This is a beautiful red rose, however, last year it didn't do fantastic and lost one of its main stems, which was a bit of a shame. So I'm not going to take quite as much off of it this time. The same with any pruning in the garden. If you find a dead stub, just take it out. There we go. There we are. Hello. This large shrub here is called a Hypericum. It is very fast growing. It does get quite big. Once again, because I've only got a small garden, I need to take this right back, so probably only about 1 foot off the ground. And I do this every year, and as you can see, it's a huge shrub. It has beautiful yellow flowers followed by nice red berries that turn to these black seed pods. They're very easy to grow from seed as well, so if you know anyone with one, ask if you can keep a couple of these seed pods and you're guaranteed plants. So essentially, as before, I'm just going to go all the way around the tree, the shrub, taking out stems. Any of these dead twigs, make sure you always take them away. See, look at the size of this growth. All in 1 year. There again, and this is what I have left from the Hypericum. It's just all the way down. Does look like a lot of very dead stems, but it won't be, believe me. You can already see this growth all low down, which I've left on. There's no need to cut that off. This rose here is a climbing rose. It's still very young, so it's just going to be left exactly as it is for this year. No pruning to that at all. Just going to take off this little stub, tidy it up a little bit, and that one there. There we go. Okay, now this rose I'm not going to cut either. It had a very large branch from the tree above fall on it during the storms, so I don't want to take that back anymore this year. I want to let it recover. Next here, sorry, just got that camera angle right for you. Oh dear. Okay, here we are. So here, this is a, I'm not sure on the pronunciation, Spirea. This particular version flowers on this year's growth, so it can be pruned in springtime. Anything that flowers on last year's growth, you need to leave until after flowering. So I'm just going to take it back just to give it a bit of shape. That's my son deciding he wants to call me whilst making a video. Yes, William? Okay. Sorry about that. So, just taking some of this back, just to try and get its back bud a little bit, give a bit of shape to the tree, to the shrub. At the moment, it's really wanting to grow in this direction, to the left. I want it to grow more this way. You can't always pick where it goes, unfortunately. This here is a beauty berry. It looks pretty pathetic at the minute, but it will leaf out later than most shrubs. So don't panic if you have one of these beauty berries and it looks quite dead. It'll probably be one of the last shrubs in the garden to come to life. I'm just going to take it back a little bit. Don't want to take it back too much because I do want this tree to have a bit of size to it, the shrub even. But at the same time, I don't want it to overtake everything else in the garden. So again, I let most of my cuttings just fall to the floor if they're small. Let the worms deal with them. Okay. In this corner here, we have a sorbus. It can get quite a size. I didn't want it to get very big in this garden because I want to take it with me when I move house. So I've actually planted it in a pot and submerged it in the ground, so I can just take it out when I go to leave. I have a lot of perennials down here which are all going to start coming back to life. As you can see, it'll be full of green in no time. Okay, here we have another variety of Spirea. It's just about to come into leaf now. This one also flowers on new growth. So I'm going to take this back only by a few inches, just to stop it getting a bit too intrusive on the rest of the garden. Encourage some of that back budding, and then once it leaves out, you won't actually see any of the branch structure. This is a great covering, beautiful bright green leaves, lovely little flowers. It lasts a few weeks but not very long, but for me it's the colour, and the autumn colour on this plant is spectacular. Try and discourage it from going over the grass too much this year. Got a bit crazy last year. You've weed? Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't look that much different after that, but it'll do it the world of good to just take off some of that excess so it can just grow. As you can see, none of this is particularly, you don't have to be particularly accurate with it. It's just, just trim back. Some of these plants are very hard to kill by accident. The thing that's most likely to kill a plant isn't the pruning, it'll be more the lack of watering in the summer. Oh yeah there guys, so this is a variety of Euonymous. It's a variegated one, but some of it's reverting. I don't mind, it just adds a bit of structure in the winter months. I did a bit of late pruning on it last year, so it doesn't need that much work right now. But these can be used as hedging, so you can just keep hacking them back at any time of year. There's no sort of strict rules to these guys. So all I'm going to do now is just to try and keep some of the shape. Just going to take little bits that are sticking out of the main shape out. I'm not going to make it any smaller, I don't think, this year. Just going to try and keep it in that nice domed pattern. So anything that's breaking the dome is going to get nipped off. The reason I like doing this with secateurs rather than just with hedge loppers is because if you cut through a leaf like that, it can look pretty ugly all over the tree, and they start to brown off and then eventually die as well. So if you use the secateurs, you can go in and cut the stem without cutting back any leaves. Okay? that'll do it. Dead stuff there. Get that to back bud. That's just the shrub as a whole. Just going to leave it at that. I think that's going to do it. Much need to take any more off. Let's go around. So this is my shady border. So here you'll see all the plants that like shade. So great example here, right in a row. Got ferns, Brunnera. I love this plant. Very shortly we're going to get very beautiful blue flower stems come off this, which will look lovely. An azalea. Just got a little bit of like frost damage where it's been cold, but it'll soon perk up, and hopefully we'll start getting our buds on there soon. It looks like I might have a few beginning to grow in there already, which is nice. A couple of my shade loving aces. Most of my aces are in the sun actually, my Japanese maples, but these guys need a little bit more shade. So when they all come into leaf, you'll see that most of them are either very light green, white or pale pink, which is why they prefer the shade. This section is actually quite bare. Here I have a row of astilbes and a couple of astrantia at the back. They should start sprouting within the next 3 or 4 weeks, but until then this section will look quite bare. This is where spring bulbs come into their own. I'm just beginning to get some of the crocuses come up into bloom. Still lots more leaves that are going to start flowering soon, which will be nice. So this is yet another variety of Euonymous. Much slower growing, much more compact tree, little shrub. I am just going to take the tops off to encourage some back budding. This Hebe is getting a bit in its face really. It's outgrowing where it's meant to be. Let's try and stop it from getting any taller. See if we can get it to branch out this way a little bit. There we go. So here I have a large Hebe. It's beginning to get a little bit leggy. Now, unlike the other plants, I can't just take this back, because although it does back bud, it's not exactly a prolific back budder. So I can either just nip out the tops, like so, all over the shrub, to try and encourage it to bush out again and to hide some of these stems. I could risk taking it back to older wood. What do we think? Hebes are beautiful, I love them. Such colour variations. But they do get a little bit ugly if they do this. So, hi William. That's my toddler once again saying hello. Now I'm going to do it. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone who wants to definitely keep their shrub alive. I'm just not happy with how sparse it looks. If the worst happens and it dies, I will then replace it with something else. But what it will do is reveal my beautiful cornice, my dogwood that I'm growing behind it. So that's lovely. It has beautiful winter stems. What I will do with you guys is follow the progress of this tree after this massive prune.
Mummy,
Hello, William.
what are you doing?
I am doing some gardening. And I'm telling people how I'm doing it.
Mummy, don't cut one plant, Abby.
Don't cut one of that. Well, I'm just cutting a little bit, William. You see? I'm still leaving some green at the bottom. So my son does quite like gardening. I'll show you his planter in a minute.
Here we go.
Do you need to go back indoors?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be back in soon.
Mummy, oh, my dinosaurs are mine is cold.
Well, you better take them in and keep them warm. There we go.
Oh, Dad.
Don't have any need for this stake anymore. Let's take that out. As I said, definitely don't do this if you guaranteed want your shrub to live. This is a little experiment for myself. And as I said, we'll track the progress of this shrub. But I've revealed these beautiful red stems of the cornice. And this one as well, dogwood, is a very bright green. It's a much younger plant. I only put this in the ground last year, so that's got a bit maturing to do. Now every couple of years these need to get cut back, because as the stems mature they lose their colour and they go brown just like any other tree. So every couple of years I'll coppice it back down to about a foot off the ground. I'm not going to do it this year. I want to get a bit more height on it, but yes. Okay, here I have some hellebore. Once again, one of the first things to appear in the garden. This white one's got a bit battered from the rain over the last week, but new leaves, flowers about to bloom out from the bottom. With these guys, just snip off these big old leaves, because they actually grow above the plants, the petals, which means that you don't get the beauty of them. The whole point is to see those flowers. So I cut off these old leaves to reveal the flowers underneath. This is brand new to me this year, this gorgeous purple one. It was only little, but I'm hoping next year I'll have much more stems and much more flowers from it. They're actually evergreen, which is a bonus, so it's not going to look bare for the rest of the year. At the back here, you might just be able to see my bleeding heart is beginning to sprout up. This stuff grows like crazy, and I can't remember how many times I've divided this plant. It's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. We'll come back and I'll show you once it's growing and once it's in bloom specifically, because it's undeniably an easy, low maintenance perennial, perfect for shade. So this is yet another Hebe. I dug it up from another part of my garden because it wasn't doing very well there. Once again, Hebes tend to like shade. This one on the label said it liked sun. It really didn't. So it got put into the shade. All I'm doing with this one is taking out the tips, because as it's recovered it's got very leggy and I just want it to back bud a little bit. So I'm just taking off the top 1 or 2 sets of leaves, nothing more than that, and it will come back beautiful with a new set of leaves. These come out with purple leaves which turn to green. So once again, varied interest throughout the growing season. It has beautiful purple flowers on it as well. Another reason I like Hebe. Very good for the bees. The bees absolutely love Hebe flowers. This fern, don't know the variety of fern of this, but it's gorgeous. And then here, it's the little spores that it release. Never had any baby plants pop up, despite the fact that it sheds spores every year. But it's probably good because it gets so big. I don't know what to do with them all. my very far corner here, we have my camellia, which looks like it's just about to come into bud, to leaf out. Beautiful large pink flowers on this one. Once again, this was relocated from another part of the garden last year, so this is the first year this location. So it's not done as well as I would have liked, but once again, it's a recovery year, so next year should be when it's at its best. So thank you for watching today. It was quite a long video, very jolty, very shaky, sorry, and having the odd conversation with my toddler. I hope you found it useful. Just remember some simple rules. When you're pruning anything, always follow the 3 Ds. So cut off anything that's dead, diseased, or damaged. Dead, diseased, damaged. They all come off. Then after that, that's when you can decide what needs to come off. If it's a spring flowering variety, make sure it's something that flowers on the new growth. If it's new growth, you can cut it back in early spring. If it grows on last year's growth, make sure you don't cut it back until after flowering. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments and I'll get back to you when I can. Okay, thank you.